Greetings, fellow artists. I hope all of you are having a very beautiful
Peasants, it's time to stop sucking as an artist and breathe some freaking life into your paintings by a simple method of enhancing your colors. And for this noble endeavor, I've chosen the most interesting subject matter known to man.
lemon. I have painted this lemon twice, the first without much hue variation, the second with more hue variation. I will also show you how I optimize my palette and my brushes to push the color even further.
To the face!
Hue, simply put, refers to whether the color is more red, yellow, or blue. It can also refer to what secondary or tertiary color it veers towards. Saturation or chroma refers to how intense the color is, and value refers to how light or dark it is. Field color is the overall color of any given object. I chose a lemon because it is predominantly yellow, so you might not think you can get much color variation without making it look ridiculous like your face. The colors I am using are ivory black, ultramarine blue, cadmium red, yellow ochre, cadmium yellow, and titanium white, bitches. I am using walnut oil to thin the paint down, but only in the final stages for a painting like this that is done in alla prima. Both of the paintings I'm doing are quick alla prima studies, and they are technically brilliant. However, this first painting is done without hue variation. The colors are still accurate, and once this one is done, it will look fine and will most likely be fought over by all the major galleries on the planet. But when contrasted to the second piece, you will see a major difference. In this particular masterpiece, I am paying more attention to the drawing and values. I am observing the colors, but I am not embellishing it or thinking of pushing the hue any further than what I immediately see. For study, and especially when you first begin painting, this is okay, because these are two major technical elements that are essential to your growth as a painter. The first being able to draw the form and proportions correctly, and the second having the ability to key the light and dark values up properly so as to achieve a unified flow of light. Many painters are able to achieve this in their work, but if you really wish to take your painting to the next level and breathe life into your work, you need to be able to play contrasting hues off of each other to form a vibrant painting that is interesting to look at. It is good to be able to simply try to match the color. However, even if you are a beginner, it is good to start thinking about how you can push your colors without making them oversaturated, or more specifically, too colorful, especially for classical and academic work. At least be aware of the potential you have to push your colors. If you are first starting and you find this overwhelming, do not fret, my dear peasants. There is a lot to juggle in painting, and it is with much practice that you will be able to do these things. Now that I have masterfully and effortlessly completed this lemon painting, notice that the drawing and the light and dark values are in the ballpark, and the color looks decent as well. You might be thinking to yourself, but Louis, this painting is better than any masterpiece I have ever seen. I literally myself with excitement when you showed it to me. To which I would respond, thank you, my dear lesser beings, but you haven't seen anything yet. Prepare to have your face literally exploded before your very eyes. For a more in-depth explanation of how I recommend setting up your palette and mixing between your colors, check out this masterpiece of a video I exploded into existence just a few short months ago. But for now, I will briefly tell you how I organize my palette, mix my colors, and work my brushes to maximize my color output and prevent the painting from looking dull and grayed out like your face. So I'm going to show you a very easy way to really increase your color application when you're painting. And essentially what I do, I try to organize these brushes. I know this seems a little bit intimidating right now, especially if you're first starting. So what I'm gonna do, I'm just gonna break it down into the very basic brushes for the lemon. Essentially, these are the brushes for the lemon, going from dark to light. And so I'll work within a value range with each brush. So this brush kind of goes along these values right here, dark, medium dark, and then the mid-tone, and then we have the mid-tone brush here, which sometimes I go kind of this way, and then this brush right here, I'll work out like this. And say we're working the lights, and this is my light brush right here. We want to constantly be going back to the palette, and say we have we're working between light values right here. So I'm going to go through, I'm going to get this and get this. But in paint, you don't just want to mix between values, because this right here, the mixture between the two, is going to be a little bit grayed out. So what you want to do, you want to add a little bit of color at the same time. All right, a little bit better example. Let's work in the midtones here. Between these, for example, when we're mixing between colors, and this is how I do it. I have the main pile so I don't have to constantly keep mixing. And I'm just gonna mix between them, and then I get a value, which is a lightness or a darkness, right? How light it is. That's what I mean by value. That's in between these two. But then I don't just stop here. This is a little bit grayed out, and midtones have color. So say we wanna make something red. I'll just go through and I'll add a little bit of red here. So now we have a value that's in between these two, but it has a certain tinge, if you will, of red. And this is how we do it. Now in classical oil painting, we can push it, and I recommend exaggerating the color a little bit within reason. You don't want to throw a ton of paint on. This is cadmium red, and mine is a little bit potent, if you will. But this is how we push the color values. We have this. Now say you want a bluer version of this. All right, so we paint, or we can either wipe this off. I always have a cloth with me. I'll go and I'll take this here, this here, and we'll mix a value in between, and then we're going to take our blue ever so slightly right here, and we're just going to mix it in. There we go. And we just blue/green it out. But this is how we play colors off of each other. All right? Say we want it purple, and you're getting the idea with this. You're getting the idea. We take some of this, take some of that. And I'm going to go to my purple right here, which I need to mix more of. All right? That, and I might add a little bit of, it could have been cadmium. That was alizarin crimson, which, to be honest with you, I don't know why I have on my palette right now. There we go. But we mix between, and this is how we can get these colors. Never just mix between and then leave it. Always add some color to some degree, right? Always add some color. You can take this and we can make it more yellow, right? There's infinite variations we can do, but constantly go back to your palette, reload the brush, and then when you reload the brush, think about the brush shape. I oftentimes will press it flat. Sometimes the brush is looking like this, where it's all bunched up, and we have to go back and really focus on the shape that we want, and we get it. And then in this way, we can shape the brush and then put it on very cleanly. 1 or 2 strokes is all it takes, and then come back to the palette and continue to get color, and take your time and go slowly with it. And I guarantee you, this method will push your color application beyond anything you have imagined in your entire life. Now let's move to our second masterpiece, which will contain more color variation, and let us see if this makes the work any more interesting to look at. As in most of my work, I am a genius. I am developing the drawing in a simple manner, and I just lightly paint in the basic color values until I have the drawing locked in with a solid sense of light. Don't feel like you need to make all the color variations from the start. Set the table for them with a solid foundational drawing with a healthy sense of light. In this manner, you will be able to focus more on the colors without having to worry about making large corrections in the drawing. Once the drawing is in the ballpark, I start to add more vibrant colors into this painting than I did before by paying more attention to the subtle hues. I'm not making the colors up, but rather observing them and slightly exaggerating them. These colors will be more apparent in the painting when looked at up close. However, when it is observed from a slight distance, the colors should merge together but yet seem more vibrant and lifelike. One of the best ways to make your colors more colorful is to place opposite colors next to each other. Each will enhance the other. For example, red is the opposite of green because each doesn't contain the other colors, so they contrast each other brilliantly. Blue is the opposite of orange, and yellow is the opposite of purple. This is what I mean when I say to play colors off of each other. Here are 2 ways that you can use to help yourself to see colors more clearly. The first is to stare at the entire setup very broadly for several seconds to several minutes and force yourself to compare the warmer colored areas to the cooler colored areas. You'll find that the more you practice just staring and trying to pick out colors while looking at the entirety of the setup, the more color you will actually be able to see. This does indeed take practice, and if it's any consolation, I had a very difficult time myself when I first started painting a week ago. The second method is to simply take a small mirror, place it above your eyes, and flip the scene you are observing upside down. You'll notice that you can see the colors more vividly this way. Alternating between these two methods while striving to find the colors will enhance your ability to pick up these colors, but it does take practice. In this lemon, my genius level intellect notified me that the left side of the lemon is a bit cooler and more green, while the right side is warmer and more red. I take this as an opportunity not to make up the colors like the morons do, but to observe and enhance them so they play off of each other on a broader scale. I also search for greens and reds wherever I can, and I try to place them close to each other without ruining the overall effect of the lemon. If I make the hue too potent, I can always dull it back down. The field color, or rather the overall dominating color, is still yellow, so I still need to make the colors yellowish to keep the illusion unified, but they will veer towards green or red. I noticed a very warm shadow underneath the lemon, so I pushed the red in it as much as possible. Adding color to shadows makes paintings come to life. I used the background as a means to demonstrate my artistic superiority and opted to add a bit more hue variation to enhance this juicy oil painting of a freaking lemon. I placed some blue next to orange areas and reds next to green areas to help them pop off the freaking page. I also echoed the yellow lightly in the background to help unify and colorize the otherwise drab background further.
Now, while my evil twin is off somewhere most likely plotting how to kill me, let me go through and show you guys a grayscale of what we have done to demonstrate to you how this looks without the color. Here we have the two lemons, and we have the light values and dark values. Everything's keyed up properly. The drawing's there. These work as paintings, it just doesn't have color. In fact, I like the drawing on the left, the first lemon that I did, a little bit better on the right. However, let's see how this looks when we add color to it. Boom! So over here, we don't have the color variation as we do over in this painting right here, as you can see. Consequently, this is looking a little bit more vibrant, a little bit more lifelike. So what I want to point out is that we have large areas contrasting each other. So we have green and reds contrasting and playing off each other. And that makes the painting look more vibrant. I put more color in the shadows, whereas this one does not have the colors and it's a little bit more dead. So that's a huge lesson. If you want the paintings to come alive, put color in your shadows. I also play the color off on a smaller scale. As we can see here, we have more of a reddish value there, but then I put a little bit more green in it, even though this is more of the warmer side of the painting. I did the same thing over here, where I have this as the green area right here in particular, but it's being played off by certain variations, especially right here where it's a little bit redder. We have on the darker side something warm here, and then we have green here. But if we look at the whole thing, this is predominantly green. Even right here where it's an in-between, we have more of a green value, but then we have this red value right there. And they're contrasting each other, they're complementing each other and making this turn. Now let me demonstrate to you the illusion that I have created on this, because these colors seem green or red because of the comparing colors that I've placed them next to. Now this to me looks pretty green, that area right there. But let's see how green it is when compared next to a green of the same light value. So this is the green. Now let's see how it is with a deep green behind it. You see how much warmer it looks, but now it does not look so green. But let's see how it looks with red of a similar value behind it. Now that looks very green. Before, to me, that looks a little bit more orangish and warm, but now it looks more green because we're contrasting colors off each other. Now let's do the same thing with the reds over here. Look how red and warm this looks. And it is. This is pretty warm. I actually pushed this quite a bit. We'll place a little bit right there. That looks pretty warm, especially when placed on top of this green right there. But let's get a pure red of the same light value and see how red it really is. It's still warm, but it does not seem as warm as it did before.
But now let's try to contrast it with a green of the same value and see what happens. Now it looks very warm. So do you see the difference between the two? And this is what I'm doing on a smaller scale, contrasting these colors off of each other on small scales and on the more larger scales. And again, these colors are all observed. It's just on a very subtle level, and you can push them to enhance the colors and make them seem more vibrant than they actually are.
Once again, I have proven my intellectual superiority to the world by treating your asses to a wellspring of juicy and succulent painting knowledge. Just know that every action that I take on this channel, no matter how cruel, is designed to make you a better and more well-rounded person, like me. So until next time, I am Louis Guidetti.
You.
Pause. Impossible situation, you might say? Walk with me. We're just gonna come right over here.
All right, let's move this over here. We're gonna replace this here. There we go. And done. All right, I think that looks pretty good. Play.